Our PyDownloader with just a functioning UI is in front of me here, so let's add some functionality to it. In this video, we'll add basic functionality such as the ability to download a file from the web and save it to the specified location on the user's hard drive. What we're going to do first is create a new method called download. I'm going to scroll down, and we'll just put pass for now. This method will be our event handler or a slot for our signal, whatever you prefer calling it. So we need to connect our download queue push button to this method. We've learned how to do that in our events video, so .clicked, .connect, self.download. And of course our button is not called button, but instead download. This method will actually be responsible for downloading the file and also saving it to our hard drive. Remember, both the URL and the location on the hard drive are two things the user has specified, so we need to obtain these from our queueline edits. In order for us to be able to do that, we need to make our queueline edits an instance-wide variable. So we'll just do self.url as well as self.saveLocation, and remember that we need to do this everywhere where the URL and save location variables are used. Then we can go back to our download method and create a new local variable called URL. And in order to actually grab the text of our queueline edit, we need to call the text method. This text method actually returns a string, so our URL will be set to, well, whatever text the user has typed in our queueline edit, our URL queueline edit. And we'll do the same for our save location as well. And now to actually download the file from the web and save it to our hard drive, we first need to import Python's URL lib library, specifically the URL lib request part. So I'll just go back to the top of the file here and import it. One thing I should note is that this URL lib.request is not present in Python 2, but there are some alternative methods to get the same result that we're going to get as well. From this URL lib.request, we're going to use the URL retrieve method to actually download the file and save it to the disk for the 10th time. What's handy about this method is that it provides an optional parameter where you can put your report hook. And by this I mean a function that URL retrieve will report to and tell it things such as, oh, this is the file size, this is where I am right now, etc. It's very useful indeed. So to implement it, let me first create such a function. And let's call it report. And this report function must take 3 arguments. It's a chunk number, the maximum size of chunks that are read in, and a total size of the download. It will be called once at the start of the reporting and after each chunk of data is read from the server. But we don't really have to worry about that part. All we need to care about right now is creating our report function or method that takes 3 arguments. Block num, block size, and total size. So let's put pass here for now as well and go back to our download method and actually report to this one. In order to do that, we'll just call urllib.request.url retrieve. The first argument it takes is the URL, and we have this as our URL. Second one is our save location. That's this. The third one is the report hook, and in this case it's our self.report method. In this report method, we'll actually do the calculation as to what percentage of the file has been downloaded so far and update our progress bar accordingly. First, I need to create a new variable called read so far, and this will be block number, the chunk number, and multiply with the block size. And we need to create an if statement. This if statement will check and make sure that the total size is greater than 0, because sometimes when you're downloading a file from the server doesn't necessarily report the total size of the file. In here, we'll do a little bit of math to calculate the percentage, and that'll be just read so far times 100 divided by total size. Now we can update our progress bar, but before we do that, we need to make our progress bar is also a instance void variable. So we'll do self.progress.setValue everywhere in our constructor method. And in here, we're going to call self.progress.setValue. And this is the same setValue method that we've called earlier in our last video when we were setting the value, the initial value, to 0. Now recall that the setValue takes an integer as a parameter, so this is why we're converting our percentage points to an integer right here. Finally, let's test our application and see if it works. The first thing it's asking for is the URL of the file, and I have here a kind of a URL that is more of a test our server speed URL. Basically, it's a 10 megabyte file with nothing really in it, but it's good for demonstration purposes at least. Hopefully the folks at Reliable Service don't mind, although I would recommend that you find a different file to download, and of course it can be any file. Now I'm going to put the save location as d:\test.bin, for example, and this is on my D drive, obviously. And let's see what happens when I click the download button. Yay, our application is working and it just downloaded a file. So let's see if that file is really present in my D drive. And as you can see right here, we have the great results. The test.bin file is really present in my D drive. So that means that our application is functioning perfectly. I hope that you're as excited as I am because our application works, but let's add some more functionality to the application to make it kind of more user-friendly.